Alright, welcome back YouTubers. It's been a while since my last video. In this one we're going to talk about the conversion of the F100 by Flex Innovations. I've done a couple videos on it already and I got it flying really good. I'm really happy with it. Well, we're going to talk about the whole conversion because I do have parts available now and I'm pretty happy with the way it's flying. First couple videos I talked about the slop and the stabs. I wasn't real happy with it. I mean, I got these really rigid now. I'm not saying it has to be done. I just feel a lot more comfortable with the stab being rigid. Let me show you how I did that. Over here we got a fuselage where very little has been done to it. I pressed the bearings out on this side over here. So basically it's just a raw fitting on this side over here is converted. Originally I thought the fitting back here was sloppy, but in working with it, it's a pretty nice fitting back here. The bearings fit in tight. I think the problem is where it's the tolerance in the bearing, because the bearing fits good in the nylon fitting. The bearing fits pretty decent on the stock shaft. So I don't know if they're pressing them in, the fittings using the inner race and stressing the balls, but you know, the bearings are just sloppy. And if you get a few thousand slop in this area here, by the time you extend it out over 10 inches, I mean, you know, it's multiplied by 10, and, you know, it might be okay. It's just that I'm not comfortable with the stabs bending around. And I mean, the thing is flying rock solid. So let me show you how I went about doing this. You know, it's probably okay leaving it alone, but I just like mine as solid as I possibly can get it. This is a stab where nothing has been done. This stab, I modified it. So what we got here is I JB welded a piece of a 5/32 OD brass tubing onto this. It's about 1.1 inch in length, okay? Now on the fitting here, I machined up some just basically spacers that are the same OD as the steel bearing. And the ID is for a piece of 11/32 brass tube. Because brass tube to brass tube, I mean, it's a very tight tolerance. And when you put a little grease in between it, I mean, it's pretty much rock solid. So what I did is I took the bearings out. You got to kind of just walk the outboard one out. The inboard one you can pretty much punch out because you're not going to use them anymore. And these I pressed it in with some JB weld on it. It's a pretty tight fit. This one is a little challenging to do. You got to drop it in there and just take a piece of steel with a hammer and have the wife or someone back you up here when you start beating on it so you don't rip the fitting out of the foam. Once you get them installed, you can JB weld the piece of 11/32 brass tubing in between it. Let it all dry. It's a little messy. Make sure you get all the JB weld out of the inside. And I mean, it's been working out great. I got probably at least 25 flights on it with this mod. And it's been working really good. At this side over here, you can see that I did this side. I mean, it works out really well. You know, I mean, it's way more solid than the ball bearings. I thought originally I was going to get higher tolerance ball bearings, but I decided to go this route, and it's been working great. Moving forward, I don't think I really talked in my first few videos on the actual conversion, so this one, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. We're going to kind of compare these side by side. So what I did is we got the the normal EDF hatch right here. So I cut it out a little bit bigger. So I wanted to get the engine as close to the fuel tank as possible. So I cut it out like that. Got about an inch gap there. I moved the mounting rails for the engine forward because the EDF mounts used to be right in that area right there. I'm not going to go into detail on this because if you're interested in doing this conversion, I recommend you watching the 5 videos that I have on the Freewing T33 because it talks about every step in depth. So, I'm not going to get into detail on this, but it was the same way. I made up a tool. I used a piece of 5/64 music wire, heated up, cut a slot in the foam, inserted some plywood, cut it to shape, and basically mounted the engine and pipe. Pipe's mounted the same way as I do in the T33. Works out great. The pipe is about an inch and a half longer than the T33 pipe, but it's been working fantastic. Moving forward, the first few flights I had on this thing, I had this tank right here. And it held 32 ounces, and I really wasn't happy with it. I thought, well, let's make another tank, another separate tank, and I'm going to put it up in the bay where the speed controller and cooling tunnel is. So I decided that'd be a lot of work. So what I did is I modified the tool, extended it up, and I got another 10 ounces. So we got 42 ounces here. This used to be 32. I'm getting flight times of 8 to 9 minutes on depending on how long you push it. And the tank's been working out fantastic. This is the, I had to do some cutouts here to get the tank in. It's not really a hard conversion. You just make sure when you cut it, you have a little draft angle on the sides here so you can lift the foam out. And you do have to cut this area right in here is the that separates the speed controller air tunnel to the duct. So you got to cut that away, and the tank fits in there just fine. You do have to cut it a little bit big to actually get the tank to nestle down in there, but it works out good. I elected to leave the vent line low because if it was up in the upper tunnel, it was going to be really hard to hook up. So I left this in the actual air duct. No problem at all. I'll show you on this one how we ran the lines up. And let me talk about one other thing. This is kind of an unusual model because before they glued the halves together, they had all their servo wiring in, which, they did a really good, clean job keeping the duct as clean as they could. So in the process of cutting this hatch out, you actually cut through the wire that controls the gear door, the retract, and the steering. That's what you're seeing right here. And those wires used to come into there. No big deal. Just feed the wires back, splice onto them, and rerun them. There's no other way you can do it. It's not a big thing. On that one over there, I actually pulled up this little piece of foam here. There's like a wire channel through there, and then I fed them back down through there. So I just soldered on a line, ran them down there, and extended them up to the receiver. It worked out fine. Let's see here. Let's talk about the aft spar. Flex Innovations decided not to run their spar through the fuselage, which I think was a big mistake because the spars on the Flex Innovations, they actually stop about here, okay? Every time you pull G's, you're basically putting the seam of the fuselage in tension. It's wanting to pull apart. So what I did is I just luckily the spar holes lined up. So I just took a drill bit as close as I could to a 14 millimeter, drilled out the end of each socket, and then I did a lightly file to get a full length carbon spar to fit through there. So I bought this from a place. It's just a piece of 14 millimeter OD, 12 millimeter ID carbon fiber tube. It was like 14 bucks. I bought it from a place called RMRC. They sell drones. I just did a Google search for a carbon spar. They came up, and it's working out really good. You can tell the difference even when you pick up the model, where the wings just do not flex as much before as they did before. So I'm real happy with this. You just need to do some measurements, cut it to the right length, and it's a very easy fix. It does go through the duct. I'm over it. I did modify this tank here. This tank, you know, this real estate was in the way, so I modified the plug, and the carbon spar now goes right in through this area here. It's been working fine. So this, I think, is a must mod for a turbine. The stabs, that's up to your preference. I recommend it. It doesn't have to be done, but this is a well worthwhile investment right here. Okay, we're moving forward. And let me talk about the X45 engine. Man, I own 5 of them now, and they've just been phenomenal. I got one with 27 hours on it. I emailed Gaspar a few weeks ago, say, hey, should I send it in, or what should I do? It's, you know, we're approaching winter time. He responded right away that it's running good and you don't hear any bearing noise. Keep flying it. He says the longevity of these things in between overhauls basically depends on the environment that you operate these in. If you're operating in a very clean environment, hard telling how many hours you're going to get. He said people operating them, you know, on sand, you know, Saudi Arabia, a lot of dust, says you might get 10. So run them in a clean environment. I mean, they've been, knock on wood, they've been working fantastic. I am really, really happy with them. Moving forward here, let me flip this one over. Oh, and you know, this one just has, you know, 65 millimeter JP brakes. I ran them through the existing conduit here, and these are the actual brake wires right here. I got lazy. I didn't want to run them back through the this wire channel in there. They've been working fine. So let me flip this sucker over. Okay. It's a little tight up here, but it's not too bad. I made up a little fiberglass like cradle for the UAT, and it actually sticks down into the inlet. Give him a shot down the inlet here. You know, the tank does take up a lot of the inlet also, but turbines can tolerate the dirty air, and still accelerates fine. Elected to go with the Jetty Assist receiver. I'm just more comfortable programming the radio with my transmitter rather than a laptop. This is just my personal preference. The Orta gyro seems to work fine for other people. It's whatever you want to do. I got the brake valve right here, Zycoy brake valve. There's a little junction board for the turbine. Fuel pump. The battery's nestled up really nice up here. These are Venom 2000 2 cells. And then underneath it, I got this little junction board that you need to work the, it's like a sequencer they use for the gear doors, which it works fine. And then over here, I just nestled in the little BC because I'm regulating the flight pack down to roughly 5.7 volts because it seems like that's what the servos and gear are happy with. But there's no ballast in this model at all. It worked out perfect. I never did really get a weight with the bigger tank, but the full weight ready to fly with 32 ounces was 8.79 pounds. So, you know, with the extra 10 ounces, you're probably about the 9.1, 9.2 range, which, you know, extremely light, I think, for a model this size. One thing I forgot to mention over here, but if you guys are going to do the conversion, the first thing you need to do before you do any cutting on the model is, you know, once again, follow the T33 instructions. I just put a piece of very thin painter's plastic over the model. I mixed it with water so the water kind of holds it down. Then I do a 2-ply layup over the, and that creates the hatch, which it's like a perfect fit when you do that. Then you can pop it off, trim it, and then actually cut it out. It works great. And on this model here, let me flip it back over. I insert these little plywood discs. I got a little tool that I made up. And I just, I think I E6000 these in. Then I just pick up a little screw to hold it down. It works fine. On the back hatch here, I just glued the chunk that I cut out here onto that. And you have one big hatch. Very simple to get the engine in and out. What am I missing here? So I do have tanks and pipes available if anybody wants to do the conversion. Just email me. I'll have a link at the end of the video. I mean, been working fantastic. It's a really decent flying model. I mean, it lands really nice. Doesn't like to really land until it's done flying. Got to be careful in crosswind. They very, very light on the nose gear, I think, but man, coming in, I mean, you can hold the nose off just right. So I would like to maybe see that main gear move back just a little bit to get a little bit more weight on the nose, but it's working fine. Once you get up to speed and the rudder starts taking effect, it's fine. Stock servos and everything, they seem to be working good. Other than that, it's a pretty decent flying model. You know, I've only seen a couple fly as an EDF, and they're okay. So if you got any questions, just shoot me an email, and I'll get back with you. So, all right, thanks for watching.